In today's video on the Infinite Perspectives, I'm going to go through how to be an effective leader remotely from the lessons I have learned of leading in a Føtex HD home delivery a team of a couple hundred people. So firstly, here's the stuff that we're going to go through an overview just to give you some context to make it easier to understand my responsibilities, remote management, some of the differences, and then my key takeaways. So, overview, that's the first one. What is Føtex HD? Here you can see the building. So we were a delivery service for groceries. Føtex is a grocery store in Denmark. So we delivered your groceries to your door in these nice vans that you see. So we were kind of in the transporting business. We're focusing on service, at least that's the feedback I heard from customers, what we did better than our competitors. So just quickly, the different departments that makes this massive operation. You saw the building; it was absolutely massive. Inbound, where the goods came in, picking the people that actually picks the goods and packs the goods in some small green boxes for the different customers, and then outbound, the people that load the vans. Last mile, that's where I worked. We were responsible for the vans on the road, making sure that they actually left. I'm going to go much more into this later. And of course, we had a customer service, which were the department we had the most contact with. And then right after outbound, we never talked to inbound or picking. So, last mile. What is last mile? Last mile is tasked, as I mentioned, to deliver the groceries to the customers. And basically, we were had a management team that had like the big picture. And then we had the service office where I was. We were sitting behind a desk, taking calls, communicating between management, customer service, picking, and also the drivers, of course. So we were kind of the link between. My responsibilities. Well, my responsibilities on a day-to-day basis, we had like anywhere from 50 to 100 routes on a day. Well, first of all, departure. Making sure every journey departed on time because sometimes people miss their shifts. Um, Sometimes people just is sitting in the break room, not doing anything, not leaving, not being aware of when they actually should leave, when their departure time is, and also sometimes people could get like stuck in traffic, public transport could be cancelled, so they would call in and say I'm like 30 minutes late. Well, then we have to switch some things around if possible. And like the last resort was that one of from the service office did the route, drove the route, or started the route because you wanted to make sure the service office ran well. Because if it was like a mess and just stressed out and you couldn't find anything, just pure chaos at the service office, then everything would be chaos because like the chaos comes from top and then it spreads down. And as I came a little bit, touch a little bit upon delays, like following up on the delays that might occur on the route. We could monitor like the drivers every time they like dropped off, like the drop off point, made a delivery. We could see like what were their schedule, like how was their time according to their schedule. Um, Even if they were early, sometimes they were late. But like delays, what is causing these delays? Is it because of traffic? Is it because of parking? Was it hard to find? Didn't the customer pick up? Or did they take a wrong turn? Or roadworks? Like there's many different options. There can be a lot of different things. Or the worst thing was, did the van get stuck or did it break down? Because then we had to send another van out to actually like do the route, take the rest of the route. That was like the worst thing. Getting a call at like 8:30, 9 p.m. and we closed at 10. Like, I'm stuck. Nah, you didn't mean that. But you have to be nice. Even though as I mentioned over here, you also have to be hard. You also have to be nice. You want to be fair but hard. And also be nice to people. Like play like along with, joke around as much as you can. But sometimes you have to be hard, which was something I had difficulty of because I actually was too harsh and too hard, and also like my emotions showed too much through in my last management position. So I was working on being a nicer and like leading through compassion, all these things, which didn't work down there. Well, I one of the things is like distance and people don't see you as much. You don't build the same relationship. So you want to be hard but fair because you don't want people to like run you around corners and all of these different things. You want people to actually do what they're supposed to do. They're at work. This is not like kindergarten or school where you can just fuck around. So sometimes you had to be hard, which was something that I had to learn, especially the right way of doing it and over the phone and all these things. Because in the start, I was asked too many questions. Oh, can you do this? Like all these things, I would ask the questions instead of saying, you gotta do this. This is a very direct example. Of course, there would be a bit more words on it, and the word selection would be different. But that was something, because if you ask the question, they can say no. But if you give like an order or assume they're gonna do it, they can't. Or they can say no, but there's a much higher chance they're gonna do it. You're gonna do it like this. But sometimes I would also, sell it a bit. I would really appreciate if you do this, mate, if it were people I had a better relationship with. But some people are bad apples. They're on just at work to do the bare minimum to get paid. They're not there to perform and all these different things. And then, as also here, like problems, the problems that occurred on the journey. It could be finding parking, roadworks, taking a different route, the wrong address, customer not at home. So actually, like having this conversation with the drivers when they called in, of like how can we solve their problem, fixing their problems, and all of these different things, because there can happen a lot of things. Like a plan never survives action or when you execute it. So solving these problems also because like when you're driving around, you're using a lot of your capacity driving, especially in a big city with one of those vans I showed you before. And at the office we had like an overview. We could much easier see on maps, or you can do this, you can do this, or also because there's a bunch of new houses getting built in Denmark, our GPS on Google Maps sometimes couldn't find the address because the road wasn't there yet, or the numbers wasn't put in correctly. So we had to direct the drivers to what they should do. And also they had to call us with a bunch of things like, let's say, parking. There's no parking. So doing illegal parking, they had to call us to actually be allowed to do that. They also had to, if they should skip a customer, or had to like replan the route because the customer was not at home, also had to go through us because we have the overview. We have the big picture. They don't always have that because let's say you go out to a customer. This is a bit of detail. Like it's only 10 minutes away. Doesn't sound that bad, but 10 minutes in the planning is gonna cost you 10 minutes each way probably. That's 20. Then you have to deliver parking. It could easily take 30, 35 minutes just to drive 10 minutes. And also, if they wanted to skip their break because they were delayed, they also had to call us. So there was a bunch of different things. And also, as I mentioned, touched upon a little bit before, persuasion. Actually getting people to stay longer, come in. You had to be persuasive. You had to make people want to do it. And of course, you had the different peoples you want to call the most, but you had to sell it in a way. You want people to also feel appreciated. That's a very important thing if an employee helps you. Like, thank you very much. I really appreciate the help. But really, what kind of words can I use to get a person to do something? Actually sell it to him. Like it's a nice route. You don't have to derive the entire thing. You're just gonna come in as an extra, help us a little bit, and go out and take a couple of stuff if people have massive delays. All these different kind of things that goes into persuasion. The most important task, though, was debriefing. As I mentioned, we were a link between management and the drivers. So debriefing people when they came back, like how was the route? Was it nice? How was it? All these different things. Did anything happen? And if there were delays, what caused the delay? And sometimes people don't want to share it because, oh, nothing, I don't know, roadworks, there's just a bit of traffic. But then it's like having a chat and just having this conversation, because all of a sudden, then it's like, oh, well, I just like, I just took a 5 minute break, 10-minute break when there wasn't supposed to, because the break was planned in the route. Or I took the wrong turn, or they did something else stupid that they didn't want to share, but all of a sudden, when you get them to talk, they start sharing it. And this is not to be like after them, all these different things. This was to find out what went well, what didn't went well, because we would send all of this stuff onto the people that actually planned the routes, so they knew what to take care of and what to encounter and all of these different things, really communicated through. So that's why debriefing was so goddamn important. And also, like, how can we make their job easier, their job better? Is there anything we can do? Should we change something? All these different things. Is there an address or something we need to write down so we can brief on the next time, so they don't have to take a massive ass detour? So getting this feedback is so goddamn important. And also, this is the time you actually have to chat with them. So debriefing, as mentioned, was very, very important. And also, this was where I talked to them, because we could also deliver early sometimes. Like, people actually ordered in a time slot. And I would always say to them, I actually like late more than earlies, because you can control an early. You can just wait, not deliver, but you can't control a late. That's out of your control. And this is the stuff I would explain to them. And what makes remote management different? Because I've never been in a remote managed different like before. Like, you don't see each other an awful lot, and I think this is very relevant, because more and more companies like start doing this. There's many more workplaces where you can do remote work than you could before COVID, of course. So this is something that is very valuable to a lot of different people, because it is different. You don't see each other as much. Like visibility, you don't see each other so much as you do, for example, in a store and in an office, where you're all together. So you don't get to know each other as much. You don't build the same bond. At least it's not as easy to build this bond with your employees, which can be like a very important thing, because I definitely know if it's a manager that I like, I'm much more inclined to help them than if it's a piece of shit I cut. Oh, sorry, that's a very bad word. I use it in the Australian way. So that's one thing that's very different. Um, you don't spend, as mentioned, as much time together, which can sometimes make it easier to cut corners. We can't like watch them. Not in a bad way, but you can't see what they're actually doing. So they are like their own boss in this time. Like, you know, it's like you have freedom with responsibilities, like you control their own time. And one of like the big things is people don't feel the impact, what it's like when people call in sick, because they are not there. They're just driving their own route. Their route is not going to change if somebody calls in sick. But it can be so stressful getting a call at like 6 a.m., like I'm sick, or like 2 hours before, or something like that. You have to get people in because you have to complete the day. Like, if you don't have any extras, all these things, like, it can make such a mess to call in sick. But they don't feel that. They don't feel the impact like you would in a store, for example. I've been in a bunch of stores, so that's why I'm using that example. But in the store, you feel you have to run faster, you have to do more if a person calls in sick. So therefore, you're less inclined to do it if you have a good, at least if you have a good like relationship with your colleagues, your boss, all these different things. But they didn't, so they were much more inclined to do it. And also, like, if they make mistakes, all these different kind of things, like sometimes people Well, I didn't see, so they just start lying about it. So that's like a big difference. And also the relationship, as I mentioned, building this relationship is very important. There's a line like you don't want to be friends if you can't control it with your employees, but you want to have like a good friendly relationship. Some people can control actually being friends with their employees. So I always like, oh, what's up? How you doing, my guy? Like all these different kinds of things, just joking about with them, having a good time. Uh, that's so important to actually do it when you have them on the site just before they leave or when they call. Like, don't try to get them off the phone as quickly as possible. If they call about something quickly, joke about a bit with them, have a bit of a chat to build this relationship. Like there were some people they like if they drove in like the center of Copenhagen, they would have to call for parking constantly to park illegal because there's no parking space. Like it's a European capital city, and those are like not built for cars. So like, oh, is it parking enough? If it's a person that called about parking a lot, it would be like, do I know what it is? Is it parking again? All these different kinds of things. And also into this, like I want to tie in because sometimes they were not supposed to do this, but some people didn't want to take the breaks, and I'm not very good at doing it myself. They just want to get finished as quick as possible, get home, and so they get home and have a good time, stuff like that. So they would call, can I take stop 15 instead of 14 because their time slot is open now, and if I have to take 13 first, I have to wait like 30 minutes, an hour, these kinds of different things. As I mentioned, we didn't want to do earlies. I'll be like, we could might figure that out. Like the real policy was they need to do it in the right time. But let's say we didn't have a lot of people, we had no extras, and there might be some delays, stuff like that. I would say on one condition. If you call me when you're finished with the route, because then I might have to send you out to help somebody else. So that helped it and helped that relationship to really like build it and just like having a good fun time, let them relax a little bit and chat with us during the evening, all these different kinds of things. Like take the time to build a relationship because that's gonna make your employees go so much further if it's not just a job, you're just doing your work, but you're actually also you're having fun. Not like all these different things. And the people that I had a better relationship with, of course we would like joke about some things like if we had a chat yesterday, I would talk to them about the day after, all these different things. And building that confidence also. Are you doing an amazing job? If I saw they saved a bunch of time on delivery, like going up with the goods and actually like taking the goods from the van and up to like the third floor, the fifth floor, or just to the house. If I could see they saved a bunch of time there, I would say like amazing job. I can see you saved a bunch of time here, and just make them feel important, make them feel valuable, and also make them have some fun at work. Because if people have fun, they're going to work a lot harder. Like play hard, work hard, that kind of mentality. That's how I manage. And my takeaways, and the reason why I put this nice picture here of this explosion, because that's how my brain felt when I started there. I wasn't very experienced in Excel. I wasn't very experienced in remote management. I had managed like Bulga to Go before with I think there was like 50, no, not 50, like 30 or 40 employees, something like that. Here there was over 300, and there was a lot more going on. So my head, like the first month, was just an explosion. So like the key takeaways, my top three lessons: take your time, because if you don't take your time for each task, you're not gonna do as good of a job. There's 5 people coming in, but I can see there's a big problem on this route. I'm gonna take the time to talk to this person about what happened and give the time so I actually can get an understanding of the reason for the delays so we can get that data and use it in the future to make the routes better. And I've also, if I'm just like writing something, doing something important to customer service, an email, I'm just about to be finished. If they're about to give me their keys so they can get debriefed and get home, I'll be like, no, it's just going to take, give me 2 minutes, a minute, then I'm with you. Because if you just keep on taking them, like, you're not gonna, as mentioned, perform and do as good of a job, and you most likely are gonna forget some things here and there. So that's something, because I'm not stressed with customers, but with my colleagues apparently it was different when I'm working with people, like, because I understand they want to get home, and they're like, you can see they're tripping and they're getting a bit stressed out, all these things. That was something I had a hard time with. So my desk was an absolutely mess with keys and all these things. But after my boss said to me, when you finish with debriefing a person, put the key in the locker before you take the next one. That was when I started to do a much better performance, because like, I'm just gonna hang it up, one thing at a time. Prioritize, stay on track when the phone keeps ringing and Teams is blowing up. We had a bunch of communications through the phone from the drivers and then Teams from customer service. And sometimes the phone just blew up, like 5 calls, they kept on going. You were about to write an email about something that happened or a car that had to get fixed, something like this. And the phone just keeps on ringing, keeps on ringing, keeps on ringing, keeps on ringing. You take one and the phone just like calls keep on coming in. So you're like on the phone for like 15 minutes. And at the same time, customer service is blowing our teams up, because there's this problem, there's this problem, can you do this different? There's some goods missing here. You had to prioritize what was most important, because some things was very time sensitive. Like, let's say, for example, there was a message from a customer, they had moved address, they weren't at home, all these things. You wanted to call the driver as quick as possible. Let's say the customer was okay, we just like place the goods, because you had to call the driver as quick as possible to have that route be as effective as possible. Because if the customer wasn't at home, the driver is going to try and call the customer, wait for a bit, and all of a sudden we use 15 minutes for a stop instead of 5. And that can very quickly accumulate. So prioritize the time sensitive things and the most important things. We also had a file that had to be like uploaded at like 9 p.m., around 9 p.m., that planned all the routes. And if this wasn't done, the day after was going to be hell, because you had to put every person in manually, which was not a good start to the day. And it just took so much time. So if you were in doing that, it was like, I'm not going to take any keys, anything, because that was the most important task. So actually prioritizing and keeping on track, and not forgetting what you were doing. Because if, let's say, after you used Teams and the phone just keep ringing, like, what was I doing before it start calling? Like, you need to have that. So I was writing on my notepad when I had some things that was about to get done. So prioritization, always very important. Be fair and hard. This I touch upon a little bit. Be nice, but not getting taken advantage of. Sometimes people would call and they would be like mad. Like, they would just call, talk shit, all these things, and get mad at you. And then I had an example of a guy that called at like 9 p.m. after we'd done the file everything, sick yesterday, like to next day. It was like, I just want to call, so not too late tomorrow, and all these things. And I just said sarcastically, well, you're not in the best of times, stuff like that. Uh, and he got very, very mad at me, because he thought I was like offensive and I didn't respect him, all these things. And he started just getting like very like rude to me. And I was like, you shouldn't talk to me like that. I'm not going to hear it like that. You ain't going to get nothing from it. All these different things. And also, if, like, let's say a guy was at like a break and the driver wanted to talk to him because he was in the situation, I had to talk to the person to actually be like, well, he has the right to take his break. Well, I haven't taken my break. And we're like, but you have the right to take your break. And he's taking his break right now, so I'm not going to hand him over to you. You can talk to me, and that's just how it is. And just being Not angry, but hard. Like, this is how we do things, and that's just how it is. That was, as mentioned, a big takeaway from me doing that in a nice way. And also, or what was the example? I had a person that didn't show up for work. He didn't know he had a shift, so I called him, like, whereabouts are you? Uh, well, I'm here. Like, that was quite far away. You have a shift today. Do I? Oh, when was it? He wanted all these answers. I was like, I don't know that. My first priority is getting you to show up, and then we can take all this other stuff when you come. So that was like being harsh, because we are not going to talk about that now. That can wait. You're going to show up. And also, what else could it be? Trying to think of an example. Give me a couple of seconds. Another example is something that I touched upon earlier, was like people were in the break room and they were supposed to leave, but they hadn't left. And then all of a sudden they found out, oh, they needed to buy a little thing because we had a refrigerator of like energy drinks, snacks and stuff, so they can take it with them on the route. And then after I went in there, they were like, they hadn't left. There was like 10-minute delayed already. They had to buy something, and I was like, guys, that's what's the word for it? I finally, after like 3 minutes of thinking, I finally found a translation, because like bad style doesn't make any sense in this context. But when they came in and had to buy something, I was like, guys, that's stall work. Like this is this is bad. Like, you can't be serious. Like, this is a joke. You're not taking this seriously. You're already late. Why didn't you do this before? And like, I went in on that, and we also wrote all of this shit down. Like, if people did something that, like, they had a bad attitude, something like this, we always wrote it down. So that was basically like the major lessons I took away from working at Food Takes Home Delivery. Sadly, it closed. I absolutely love my job down there. So interesting. And of course, I would truly appreciate a like and subscribe. Subscribe so you don't miss out on our coming podcast, all this like business leadership related content. And also drop a comment. What is your biggest takeaways? Is there something you want me to go into more detail about? These different kinds of things. And also, if you have any feedback for me, like last time with the camera, I put it in the wrong like corner. It was too big, so it was like hard to see. If you have any feedback, drop it down below. Truly appreciate you watching. Have an absolutely amazing day.